Did you know that we take 95 million selfies per day and that we view our smart devices 1 billion times per day? Maybe it's time for us to focus and look at our jobs and careers as much as we take our selfies. I'm Grace Trafton with The Better Part. Stay tuned. Dr. Tracy Weiland is a prominent thought leader on the impact of technology on society, work, and careers. She's been a scholar at Stanford University and has held leadership positions at Apple, HP, Cisco, and the Apollo Group. Dr. Weiland has authored 11 books and is a frequent media contributor. Her latest book is called Employed for Life, 21st Century Career Trends. Welcome, Tracy. It's good to see you here again. There's several work trends emerging in today's digital world. First, tell us what role our personal contributions play.
Well, you know, when you mentioned about taking a career selfie, I really focused in on that and wondered how much time we actually do on career planning. And what I found is we only really spend about an hour and a half a year. And contribution is really important. And that's one of the points that I bring out to people about taking a career selfie is contribution is very key today. Employers are looking for people who constantly contribute and add value to their jobs. In the past, it was almost like jobs were tasks, but today we need to constantly evolve our jobs and continue to contribute.
Now, we've all heard of the term A player, but now there's a term T person. What exactly is a T person?
Well, a T person comes from the word transdisciplinarity. It's a big word, but think of a T: breadth, depth, and technology. So today, in a competitive world, in a digital world, we really need people who can lead, who are visionary, who understand technology, and can help maneuver us through a complex work environment.
There's a lot of things that have been changing recently, and making your manager look good has been ingrained in many employees as a way to get ahead in the past. Is this concept now changing?
You know, Grace, that has really changed because companies are realizing that we need our employees to make the company look good. And the way that you do that today is by making you stand out as an employee. Think about it. The first person you meet on a plane is the flight attendant or the reservationist. The first person you meet in a hotel is not the manager, but it's someone in the concierge or a bellboy. So the brand and how they really represent themselves is more important today than making your manager look good.
And also in the past, many of us thought that of the firm that we joined as our family, if we were lucky, that is.
Yeah, in fact, the firms used to be the place where we made our friends, we met our spouses, we, had our social circles. But today, jobs are really only lasting 4 to 7 years. We have much more velocity and churn. And two is, you have to start looking at your company as your team. And it's not your mom and dad, it's not your brother and sister anymore, but it's really a team. How can I help you, and how do they help me? And it's a very different environment today than in the past.
So it's not quite as valid today as it was in the past.
No, we really need people to take responsibilities for their own career, and you can't look to your manager like a parent who's going to help you, because they need to look and focus on their careers and manage it. And so I would encourage people to say, these are my team players. I may work for them for a long time or a short time, but they're certainly not my family.
Now, is longevity still a good career path to promotions and getting ahead? Here in Silicon Valley, it doesn't seem to be the case.
No, in fact, I meet so many people who say to me, Tracy, why did that young person get promoted over me? Or why did that new person get promoted over me? And it's because that old term, the tap on the shoulder that you're waiting for, that longevity in a firm that guaranteed you promotion, isn't there anymore. It is all about our first point, which is contribution. And that's what companies today, how they're rewarding people and promoting them.
Now, how important is it that we fit into the company culture?
Culture is very interesting, particularly here in Silicon Valley, because every company has a unique culture. Google is not like Facebook. Facebook is not like Cisco. Cisco is not like Apple. And being able to fit and, you know, comfortably work in a culture is pretty important because it's how the firm represents itself. I call culture really the corporate glue. So I encourage actually employees to interview as the companies that they want to work for as heavily as they interview you, and make sure that there's a good fit. And culture will be very important, you know, and that's the norms of the company, how they get things done.
So it's important for us to do our homework on the company.
Absolutely. I mean, I myself had joined a company, I loved it, joined a different company, and it wasn't a good fit. And it was a bad company, it was the culture wasn't quite right. I was looking for something that was a little more dynamic than the company I had moved to. So I think it's important because you don't want to self-eject.
Right.
In my case, which I did after about a year, or get ejected, which companies
Right.
will do if they see that you're not a good fit.
Now, is it still critical for us to find our passion, which we hear so much about, finding our passion?
You know, I think that puts a lot of pressure on people. You know, I know there are people who born saying I'm going to be a pilot or I'm going to be a doctor, but I think most of us look for and explore what we like to do, what we do well, and hopefully something that we can make money at. And I think that that changes from our 20s to our 30s to our 40s to our 50s and on. And I would encourage people to do more exploration instead of trying to find that key passion, because it may change.
So is there a difference between finding your passion and self-exploration?
Yeah, I think when you explore, you try many things. So in a company, it might be doing lateral moves. It might be joining different organizations. It might be volunteering for something, and continue to explore, or taking new classes to say, what am I good at that I can actually enjoy doing and hopefully make money at it, so
Right.
that I can continue it, at least for a while anyway.
Right, right. So what can we do to make ourselves more marketable as an employee?
You know, I think the more skills and experiences that we can learn and do will keep us marketable. So learning a new technology, or making a move from marketing into sales, and then maybe sales into finance, really rounding out ourselves so that we can market ourselves for more opportunities. It's highly valued today to have more robust backgrounds than just being only a specialist.
And how important are the people we encounter at work?
Actually, it's very important. Recruiters will tell you that 75% of the jobs today are done through networking, but don't forget, networking starts inside the company. That's how you find about job openings. And let's face it, when people leave companies, they bring people with them. So I think it's very important not to burn bridges and to keep your networks inside and outside of the company.
So it's always important to develop relationships within the company as well as outside.
Absolutely. I encourage people to do informational interviews. This can be a quick phone call with a 15-minute, just what do you do? Here's what I'm looking at, just getting to know people, or a cup of coffee. But it's very important because you never know when those next jobs are going to open up, or a new division might be created, or God forbid a downsize, but then opportunities happen there too because people leave and they need backfills. So I think it's important to always just keep your ear to the ground, inside and outside the firm.
I know that lots of people just sort of keep within their own department. So it sounds like it's good to be able to reach out to other organizations within the company, especially if it's a large company.
Yes, and if you can't make a lateral move, because some companies don't encourage it, I would encourage you to go on a cross-functional team so that you can start to work with people from different parts of the company and learn about what they do. And a lot of times you really just have to take responsibility to get out there. There's a lot of what they call affinity groups inside of firms where you meet. There might be a women's group, it might be a tech group, where you can actually meet people inside the firm who are doing different things. And I encourage that kind of networking.
Yeah, I think a lot of managers are somewhat short-sighted when they don't encourage lateral moves.
Yes, in fact, in the old days, and I'm talking about myself, it was highly discouraged because they wanted you to get very good in a position. Today, they're realizing the world's too complex. And so how do we help people maneuver around the company? And some offer internships, you know, or temporary rotations, or cross-training. or even like internal LinkedIns, so that people can say, okay, let me start looking and posting my skills so that I can position myself for other opportunities. So I think today it's really changing, and they're realizing that we need to give people this flexibility, because if we don't do it inside, they'll leave and they'll go outside.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So you think the management nowadays is getting more enlightened?
Some firms are. In fact, I remember talking to a firm that was trying to figure out how they could almost do these rotations between their company, not only internally, but with startups, so that they could keep their employees engaged, learning how to innovate and process at the same time. So I think there are some progressive firms out there, or at least HR managers.
Oh, that's good. That's very encouraging to hear. Now, how about a mentor? How important is it to have a mentor?
You know, I did a research study of executives a couple of years ago, and most men and women, that 96% of them said you absolutely need a mentor. However, it's changed. Instead of having a single mentor, what they encourage is having a personal board of advisors. I would just call it having go-to people, people you go to for finance help, people you go to inside the firm, people you go to for outside the firm, people you go to for career advice. One person can't possibly mentor you through an entire career anymore. And I don't think you'd want to, because if that person leaves
Right.
and you don't want to go with them, or they
Right.
don't want you, you know, you've only positioned yourself after one person. So it's a personal board of advisors, a lot of go-to people.
So you had touched on networking a little while ago. Can you tell us a little bit more in detail about the networking process, both in-house and outside of the company?
Sure. I think when people think about networking, they think about they have to bring a stack of business cards and
Right.
hand them out.
Right.
It's almost like speed dating.
Right.
And it's really not. And today, you know, networking is more about learning about what you do, and you learn about what I do without an ask. It's more of getting to know people, more informational interview type of process, which is just learning and exploring. And people remember you because, let's face it, people love to talk, and they love listeners. And so I encourage people just to do what I call subtle networking, which is just asking people about their lives, about their work, their careers, and at another point in time when you're looking, ask their advice. It's almost better to ask people their advice rather than if they have a job.
Now, how hard is it to get an informational interview? Because everybody's so busy at work. Are there lots of people who are willing to take out the extra time to give you an informational interview?
Oh, absolutely, because it's a two-way street. You know, I might be a contact for you, and you may be a contact for me. I would encourage, start with 15 minutes. Everybody has 15 minutes and can do a phone call. And that's easy, or a quick cup of coffee. But really it's, you know, and have your questions set so that you're not wasting people's time, and ask them, if you just ask advice. You know, I have a couple of questions, or I'm hitting upon a career challenge in my life. I'd like to get your advice, and just have like 5 quick questions that you can ask them. Even send them in advance so that they can prepare on how to answer you, and can see that you're not asking them for, do you have an opening?
Right.
But I think it is important.
So you can do informational interviews over the phone? Is that what you're saying?
Oh yeah, I've done it over Skype as well.
Ah.
So I'm always meeting people, or even email and texting with people. I mean, it's just the communication of getting to know people. A lot of people reach out to me on LinkedIn. So there's many ways that you can have an informational interview. It doesn't always have to be that face-to-face in person.
Okay, that's good. That's good to know, because a lot of people just don't have that face-to-face time.
They don't have the time anymore.
So what else can we do to prepare ourselves for working in this global economy of ours?
Well, I think what's important is to keep your eyes and ears open. For global opportunities, you know, if you can't travel, although I highly encourage it, or can't take an overseas assignment, which I also encourage, at least try to get on some globalized projects, whether it's a technical project like an IT, or a new website initiative or marketing project. I think it's good for people to get on virtual teams so that they can at least be exchanging with people overseas.
So do you think this applies to all different types of technologies and companies?
Oh yeah, I mean every business today is global. You think about eBay. I mean, I remember when they came on the marketplace, and I opened up a storefront in less than an hour and took international currency. And it occurred to me that anyone can be global in a matter of seconds. I also found Elance, which is a global marketplace of talent, that I can go out and find people to help me and work for me all over the world just thanks to the internet. So there's so many ways that you can actually globalize your company, globalize yourself, and globalized teams at work are pretty important today.
How about the people who are working for small companies?
Well, actually, small companies are instantly global today, especially if they're on the internet. And you can, because of technology, most of the companies today are using Skype or some form of WebEx or telepresence to communicate. A lot of them are using their smartphones to be able to do Facebook, FaceTime, and be able to connect with people. So I think the language is there, the technology is there. It's just, and you have to almost, every business has to have a touch point in another country.
Now that we've explored some aspects of our careers, let's look at a new trend in expanding jobs through crowdsourcing. What exactly is crowdsourcing as related to jobs?
Well, simply put, crowdsourcing is using the internet to tap and engage people. The larger the group, thus the name crowd. So we can tap into, thanks to the internet, people all over the world to do a variety of things. And now one of the newest trends is the employment trend. Crowdsourcing has been around since about 2008. It's grown about 703% since then and is used in a variety of areas.
Wow, it's grown that much.
It has. It's really taken off. You might remember crowdfunding.
Mm-hmm.
So crowdfunding was one of the early adopters of crowdsourcing. How can I, and you might hear her Kickstarter and Indiegogo, these sites, how is I an entrepreneur, a startup, a musician, an artist, how can I find people who might make funding donations to my cause? And so I can tap into a platform using my smartphone or an app and actually reach out to people, and they find me and they go there to look at my new product or listen to my music and make donations towards it. And that's how crowdfunding really evolved.
So people do crowdfunding for a variety of reasons, is that right?
They do. In fact, Apple Computer mentioned last year in their developers conference that they invested $10 billion in crowdsourcing globally developers and paying them to make apps for the iPad, apps for the iPhone. And this year, they're looking for developers to make applications for the iWatch.
Right.
And so what they're realizing is you have brilliant people in your company, but you have this whole world or crowds of people who have talent that can actually contribute and innovate to you. And it's not just Apple. I mean, Lego has a lab that they try to ask people, their customers, to help them innovate.
Oh.
So it's different ways that you can tap into the wisdom of crowds to help accelerate your product development.
Now you said that Apple actually spent $10 billion?
Yes,
dollars?
to 60 million developers.
Wow.
Right, so they constantly need innovation, and it can't just come from only the employee base. And so they reach out globally to people who are highly qualified who will make apps for their different product lines.
So are there other major companies doing this besides Lego and Apple?
Oh, sure, like medical community, right? Let's say you have a difficult case and you can't figure out the medical problem. Well, there are sites where you can go out and post your case, and physicians or people from around the world can help you define or maybe figure out the cause and some of the solutions. And in many cases, like there's something called the prize, where you can actually, there's companies that go out and for money offer, I have this big challenge, and whoever can help me solve this challenge can win a big prize. So it's really done across verticals and across industry.
So it's getting more and more common to do this?
It is, and that's why it's moving into employment. So if we can get people to fund us, if we can get people to innovate with us, we can also find talent to help us and find jobs that way.
That's a great thing to do, isn't it?
It really is. You can actually find jobs using Gig Walk. For example, Walmart uses Gig Walk to find people to walk new stores. Why send someone in from headquarters, from Arkansas, when I can tap into the local community? Take your smart device, walk down the aisles of the new supercenter, take pictures. Is the product positioned well? Is it priced well? Go out to the parking lot. Do we have enough handicap spaces? Right? I can pay people to use their phones to do the work for me. It's like having street, feet on the street, and pay. You can get $12 to $15 an hour for just doing a gig walk for a different retailer.
So Walmart is actually doing this right now?
Walmart, BMW,
Oh.
a number of stores, 7-Eleven, because it's much easier to tap into the local community and their smart devices, and you get a record, whether it's a video or photograph, and they can help you do global work without having to send someone there.
That is fantastic. I didn't realize that it was being done.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are familiar with Uber,
Right.
right? And that's crowdsourcing
Right.
people with cars who would like to make money and drive you, pairing it out with people who need rides, Airbnb, people who have spaces in their home,
Right.
would like to share and make money for that for people who need spaces. But now we have Moby, which is mystery shoppers. So again, it's the retailer concept.
Now, what is a mystery shopper?
A mystery shopper is someone, like Floor opened up in Palo Alto, and I remember watching a mystery shopper. Somebody walked in as a customer and started asking the sales force different questions that the employer would like them to test. It's almost like giving a salesperson a stress test to find out if they know the products, they know the prices, they give good advice. So mystery shoppers can be used in any retail facility, right? And so I can go out and find a Moby job and find if I can go into a retailer and be a mystery shopper. But it doesn't stop there. Instacart, if I want to do grocery shopping, but I don't have time or I'm homebound, Instacart can connect me with someone who'll do my grocery shopping. Or Washio to do my laundry. There's a number of these apps out there, which are just jobs on demand, connecting me to a job or as an employer to people who want to work in this different area.
So Instacart is not like Safeway who can do home deliveries. It's something different.
It's something different. It's people who are well trained at grocery shopping. They know how to pick out meat and they know how to pick out fruit.
And these are individual people.
Yes, and then they go on to find people, let's say in San Francisco, who don't have time to shop, and they will become their personal grocery shopper, and they will go around to the stores for them to do their shopping. So it's a little different, and all of this is done today now on your smartphone. So you download apps for different types of services, and then you can make money in real time on demand. Another one I just heard about was tailor-made. How do I connect? I know how to sew with sewing jobs, right? So I might be a tailor, but I want to expand my pie and get more jobs. Or I'm someone who has, a lot of sewing needs. How do I find tailors? And so I can post my need on the app site.
Excellent. That's something I can use.
Yes. Another one was Washio. It was a very good example that a building had a major fire. Well, you need to fix that in real time. How do you clean up the debris? Right? How do you find people professional services on demand? So you put your posting out there. You might get individuals who come in, but you also might attract professional services who have time that day to help you solve your building problem.
But you still have to do your reference checking and do your due diligence, right?
Right. So there are these sites now that are aggregating. So one is crowdsource.com. What I notice is they're aggregating a lot of these on-demand apps and creating some formalities around it. They offer to do some tests and background checks for the companies, where for the case of Uber, they do their own. Now you're seeing these aggregator sites saying, okay, we'll do tests for you, because some of these on-demand jobs are quite technical. I might want a data search done, and I want to make sure the person can do that. Maybe you can do translation. Unbabble is a site where they need translators, but you need to make sure that they can translate before you hire them.
Right. That's very, very useful. I understand that some organizations are using the wisdom of crowds for product development, actually, which I think you have mentioned that Apple is doing a lot. And since they've been doing it, can they measure how successful this approach is?
Well, I think Apple does a great job in quantifying, how many people they employed, how many apps they developed, and how much money they spent. I'm not sure if all companies are as articulate about, how they do it. I think the prizes are very interesting. I worked with a number of pharmaceutical companies that really posted some high-stake money to get chemists and different types of people in the pharmaceutical industry to help them make new drugs in a faster time frame. And they paid, so they found people who could offer that unique intelligence on these very specific types of pharmaceuticals that they're trying to make.
So are there metrics being developed as to the success rate of various industries and various companies?
I think they're posting more on an individual level, and I would have to look at each company to see how they're producing, whether it's a new drug or whether it's solving a problem or whether it's solving a medical case.
Well, all this new information is fascinating. Thank you again for being with us today, Tracy.
Thank you.
The Better Part is produced by volunteers at the Cupertino Senior Center. Absolutely no experience is required to join the Better Part. If you would like to look into being a part of our group, please leave a message with the Cupertino Senior Center. It's a lot of fun to be part of a TV show, so check us out. Thank you for being with us today, and I hope you found some useful information regarding our ever-changing workplace today. Please remember to watch us on YouTube and Roku. See you next week. Bye-bye.